Hey everyone, it's time for an update on what I'm doing and how things are going. I have had a couple good days. My depression isn't so bad. Felt pretty good about myself and working on my recovery. One of the things I've really been focusing on is my codependency, and I am reading a lot and I am listening to videos on YouTube about codependency and how the it affects your thinking, because what happens with codependency is you use um, taking care of someone and giving and doing for others as a form of manipulation to try to get them to do what you want them to do. But what happens is it doesn't work, and you end up with resentments and anger and frustration and feeling like you're not good enough, you're not worth it. Why aren't they doing what I need them to do? Codependents are really not direct with their communication. They don't communicate their needs effectively. So the other person has no idea really what they are trying to get from them. And there's a resentment that goes back and forth between the two of them. I'm learning that I have to be very direct and specific about what I need, what I want in my relationships with people, so that I don't have that expecting someone to do what I want but not telling them, and then when I don't get it, my feelings get hurt, I get upset, angry, resentful, and that's really not fair to the other person, because until you communicate your needs and desires, all it is an expectation. It's not a boundary. Okay, boundaries are very important for codependence. You need to set up certain boundaries, what you will and will not tolerate, what type of communication you have with another person. The no yelling and screaming is one big for me, because I've gone through so many relationships where yelling and screaming or hitting has been the form of communication. I made sure in my current relationship that I specifically said, I'm not going to yell and scream at you, and I don't want you yelling and screaming at me. If we have a disagreement, then what we need to do is either talk about it. If we can't talk about it because we're angry, then we need to walk away for a little bit, calm down, and then come back and talk about it. And just because you have a certain way of doing things and I have a certain way of doing things does not mean that we're going to always agree. And at that point, we need to agree to disagree, because everybody's raised differently with different standards, different morals and beliefs. And so it's very hard to find the perfect person out there. I mean, it happens, but everybody is somewhat of an adjustment, and you just look for the person that you can fit with best. And so, what I made sure of also was, I will not cheat. I will not, I put these boundaries in place because I had been cheated on. I had been really hurt, and I wasn't going to be manipulated by someone and made to feel like I was crazy because I suspected things, or I was jealous, or believed something might be going on, and then have that person tell me that there's something wrong with me. There's nothing going on, when in fact there was, and I found out there was after the fact. So I have been gaslighted many times by one particular person who kept telling me I was crazy, and that my belief system was warped and there was just something wrong with me. But it ended up being that I was correct. I mean, my gut told me that something was going on. So I knew. I knew that this wasn't right. Something was there. And yeah, he ended up sleeping with my best friend, and both of them tried to convince me I was crazy for about 4 months. So being gaslighted is what caused me to try to commit suicide. I cut my wrists and really just, I was lost. I was totally, really honestly starting to believe that there was something wrong with me. And that, because I had two of the people that were closest to me telling me that there was something wrong with me. And there really wasn't. And so I have to learn to trust my gut. If something doesn't feel right, then it's not right. If there's red flags going off, then you need to pay attention to those red flags, because your body and your internal systems basically will let you know that something isn't okay. And trust that. Trust that. Because 9 times out of 10, your gut, your body is correct. Anyway, so I worked on boundaries a lot with this relationship that I'm currently in, but we've been apart so long that it's really, really been difficult. I'm going to talk about my backstory a little bit more later, but I have to learn to not fall for people's potential, okay? Because people that you can see the potential in someone doesn't mean that that person is going to reach that potential. Doesn't mean that they want to reach that potential. So when you're in a relationship or looking for a relationship, don't pick somebody based on their potential. That is a devastating thing. I mean, that's an expectation that's unmet again. And so then there's the resentment. Why isn't this person doing what I want them to do? Why aren't they believing in themselves, becoming what you want them to be? It's because you fell in love with their potential and not what the actual person is. The other thing is, don't fall in love with words. Use your people's actions and their patterns to embrace that person's true identity. Don't fall for sweet words and kindness and all that. Look at what that person does, because that again is going to show you who that person really is at this point in their life. Doesn't mean they can't change, but if they don't, then again, you're going to have that resentment and anger because you fell for the words and not for the actions. I do this. I've struggled with this for years. I've found potential in a lot of people and I believed in them. But at the same time, I couldn't change them because they didn't want to change. They were happy and content with the way they were. I wanted them to change and put pressure on them, tried to manipulate them, tried to make them be what I wanted them to be, which is codependency. And it never works out. Unless that person wants to change for themselves, they're not going to change. So what I'm focusing on at this point in my life is what can I change in me, not what can I change in the other person. And what I can change in me is being a better communicator, watching people's actions and not listening to everything they say, and not falling for potential, falling for the actual person and what they are currently at, what stage they are currently at in their lives. And if they're not the person I want them to be, then it's time to move on. And I can focus on loving myself and filling the void in myself and not trying to find that validation outside of myself. Because again, if I'm not expressing my needs, or if I am and I'm not getting them met, that means that is not the person for me. And to be honest, that I should be able to love myself enough to know to walk away and to fill that void in my own life. I need to be more independent. I have never lived on my own until now. And I'm 51 years old. I still stuck on 50. But I graduated high school and moved out immediately in with a man that ended up I married. And since that point on, I had always lived with either a man or children or both in my life. So this is my chance to be the person I want to be. This is the chance for me to find out who I really am. It's a little scary. It's been 35 years, 40, and I still don't know the person I want to be or who I am. I have ideas, and I think one of the things I need to do is maybe make a mission statement or a goal statement for my life and what I really think is important to me, and then work towards those goals and towards being that type of person. But again, I had a pretty good day today. I played spades, I played euchre with some of the people in my sober living community, and I felt good. I had a few moments of feeling bad. That was my codependency, my roommate who's having trouble sleeping. I a took responsibility for the fact that I snore a little bit, especially when I get into deep sleep. And unfortunately, that disturbs her sleep. And it made me feel really bad that she wasn't getting sleep. And I cried and was upset because she wanted to move out of this room and then she didn't get to. But I have to understand, too, that is something she has to work through. Even though I own the fact that that happens, it's not really something I can consciously control. So I need to not take it on so personally and get so upset about it, because it is really something that is one of those things you just can't do anything about. And when you can't do anything about the problem, there's really no reason to worry about it, as other than to apologize for what's happening and to move on. So we are working on ideas to help drown out some of the noise, like a fan and earplugs and things like that. But, I guess I feel kind of weird because I guess I snore and I didn't realize I did. At least not to the point that I disturbed someone's sleep. I mean, I knew I snored a little bit, but not that loud. So again, that's one of those things that women don't really like to talk about, but it's okay. So I'm going to close this video now, and I'm going to talk next time a little bit about my backstory and about the kinds of things that my history with drugs and alcohol and abuse, and let's just see how this progresses. I'm enjoying these videos. I hope that you're enjoying what's happening and watching me change and move forward. I think that this is going to be something that really helps me, and hopefully I can help somebody else. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.